So I got a question lately, and in between all of these short videos where I only have 3 or 5 minutes, I thought I was going to use this question to show what pdfToolbox can do, but also a bit how I would go about creating something like this, especially because you always have different ways of doing things. And so looking at what is the best way to progress and figure out how pdfToolbox can do what you want is maybe a useful exercise. And so let me show you what the question is that I have. I have two input PDF files here, two potential input files, and I have a result file. And the first input file has, I'll step through the pages, has 3 pages with the front of business cards, and then it has the back of those business cards. And obviously this is fictional, as you can imagine, but they're nice penguins anyway. The second document starts with the back page, and then when I run through it, it has the 3 front pages. And of course, what I want to get in both cases is I want to get a file where I have page 1 with the front of a business card, then the back of a business card, then the second business card here and the back, and the third business card and the back. So the question is, how do you build this with pdfToolbox, and how easy is this to do? Because obviously, well, I'll show you an easy way that is kind of limited, but obviously what I really want to do is build this in a way that it is going to work for all kinds of files, whether they have 3 business cards or 5 or 2,517. It should work in all of those cases, and it should work whether it has the last page or the background page of the business card at the front of the file or as the last page of the document. It should work in both cases. Okay, so let's build a quick and dirty solution for starters. And mostly because this will prove that the way we're attacking this actually does work, and it will kind of show us what we need in the more advanced solution afterwards. So I want to do something quick and dirty first. And I have an input file. That input file has 1, 2 in total. So let me go back. So 1, 2, 3 front pages for the business cards, and then it has the back page. That's what we're working with. And what I want to do is I want to interleave these, or shuffle them if you want. So I want front, back, front, back, front, back. So my output file should have 6 pages. Now, there is something that is quite useful, and that is an action. And we will have to look at the actions here. You can look at the types of actions that we have. And one of these will be split or reorder. And that is an interesting one for what we're trying to do. I'm going to call this shuffle pages, and let's call this quick and dirty. And this split and reorder action was designed to tear apart a PDF document or merge different PDF documents together. When I'm using it inside of a process plan in pdfToolbox, it can actually take apart the files of an existing PDF and then kind of reassemble them in a different order. You don't have to reassemble them. You can also use this to, for example, only select the front and back page of the cover of a larger book, but you can put it back together. And that is what I'm going to try now. So I'm going to say, I want you to split, and then I want you to merge that again at the end. And what I'm merging is going to replace the original. So I'm going from a document to a modified version of that document. Now, the default split scheme is not very helpful, and we're going to build our own. So remember that in this file we have front, 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 back, right? And so what I can say is I can say, well, I want to begin with page 1, that's a front, And then I want the last page in the document. And now I can do two things. I could say, well, that's page 4, so I want page 4, but maybe that's a little bit too quick and dirty. And I can also say I want page -1. Minus starts to count at the end of the document. So this is the last page of the document. And in the same fashion, I can now say 3 -1. So 1 -1, 2 -1, 3 -1, or translated front, back, front, back, front, back. Okay, let's see whether this works. I'm just going to hit save to make sure that if something goes wrong, which it never does, obviously, I'm not losing what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to use test mode. And in test mode, it shows me that I have page 1 and then the back page. And then here is my second business card with the back page. And here is the third business card. And I have the back page. So this is the quick and dirty solution. And where do we go from here? So remember that I have my input document here, front, 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 back, and I want to shuffle those pages so that they are okay for an imposition afterwards with business cards. So I want to end up with front, back, front, back, front, back. And we built something that can do that in a very quick and dirty way by using a split scheme. It does exactly what I want, and it uses a split scheme 1, -1, 2, -1, 3, -1. So first page and then the last page, second page and then the last page, third page and then the last page. So this is apparently the key. The split scheme, or page selector as pdfToolbox also calls this, is the key to determining how my reshuffled document is going to be built. How do I make this into something that is more flexible? Well, let me show you, and to do so I'm going to duplicate this action and we'll just call this one shuffle pages, because this is no longer the quick and dirty solution that we want. And I'm going to insert a variable. Variables in pdfToolbox are usually the key to making things more interesting if you want. And I'm going to make let me make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to make a variable for this split scheme. And so I can call this var split scheme. You can call it whatever you want as long as it is a valid name in JavaScript. And even that is not really required, but it's much better if you do. So var split scheme. And the label in this case, okay, well, we're not going to use this, so I'm just going to say split scheme. And as you can see, it preserves the existing split scheme as the default value. So click OK, and now I have the same action, shuffle pages. But now if I would run that, so if I run tests, it asks me, what is the split scheme that you want to use? And this is kind of interesting because, let me just do that here. Oh no, I can just remain in tests, cancel, yes. And now we go to the second test document where the back page is the first page in the document. And I can modify this so that it works for this one as well. So now I would say I first want page 2 and then page 1 and then page 3 and page 1 and page 4 and page 1. And then for this document, that gives me exactly the same end result. Front, back, front, back, front, back. So at some point when I make my solution more intelligent, I will need to make sure that the split scheme matches the input document that I'm working with. But by inserting a variable in here, I've already given myself the capability of doing that. Yeah? I now have a variable, and I can now go to process plans, and I can make a process plan to drive this more intelligent version. And so we're also going to call this shuffle pages. And I need an action in here. Let's not worry too much about the layout, but I need an action, and that needs to be shuffle pages. And then, because we want this thing to be more intelligent, I'm also going to need a little bit of JavaScript at the beginning of this process plan. And the JavaScript I'm going to create from scratch, so script, and then I typically say initialize, and this is shuffle pages. And you can type a label if you want. It's never used, but you can use it as some kind of an additional description if you want. And I want it to be a script. And now I want to set, and that is what we're going to have to do in a more intelligent way, but I want to set the variable that is used by the action. And I can figure out which one it is by saying insert variables. And then I had this script, var split scheme, that was the variable that we created. And I say insert, and I could now say, and this is not going to work, but it will show you what happens. So this is 1, 2, and let's just do something with 2 pages, and now save this one and then do test. And my output is now 2 pages, the first page and the second page of the document. Why? Well, in my script, I set this variable var split scheme, and in my action, the variable is used to, I need to click here, is used in the split scheme property. Yeah. So this gives us a process plan that we can now make more intelligent. But this is typically the second step of what I would do. The first step would be that I try to build this in kind of a quick and dirty way to test that the split and reorder functionality in this case does what I want it to do. And then I make that variable and put it in a process plan in a second step. And then the last step, hopefully, is going to be, let's make the script a little bit more intelligent so that we can calculate a correct split scheme on the fly. We have our process plan, but we need to make it a little bit more intelligent. Yeah, so the process plan has the script at the beginning and then the shuffle pages action at the end. And how the pages are shuffled is determined by this script that I have in the process plan. Okay, so how do we make this more intelligent? Well, as a first step, I want to ask the user, and that's really the only thing we can do. I want to ask the user, hold on, in this document that you're giving me, is the back page of the business card, is that the first page of your input document or the last page? There is no way that my script can know this or that pdfToolbox can know this through pre-flight unless there would be something special on one of the pages. And so what I will do is create a variable so that the user has to give that piece of information when they run this process plan. And the way to do that is by using app.requires. And I'm not going to type that because I'm lazy. And so I'm just going to say app.requires. And I want to make it easy for the user, and making it easy in this case means I want to show them a variable where they only have to choose between first and last. And then depending on whether they say first or last, I will have to change the split scheme, I guess. So let's insert this so that we have something to work with. And then I need a key. So I will call that var first page, let's say back page, because that's what we're doing, back page location. And then the value by default will be first, is the back page first or last. And then it asks me, or it lets me enter options, a list of things that the user can choose between. And I'm going to use this to say first and last. Okay, that looks okay. And then let's just close all of this, and we'll run this in test mode. And as you can see, I now get the ask at runtime dialog, and the ask at runtime dialog asks me, well, what is it? Is it first or last? And so for this document that I have open here, I would have to say last, because that's where this background page for the business card is. For other test documents, I may have to say first. But now as a user, I can choose that. And of course, this ask at runtime dialog only happens when you run this in pdfToolbox desktop, in the manual version of the product. If I'm doing automation, I can still look at something I know about the order and then input that value on the fly. Now, when I run the process plan, it still gives me only the first 2 pages. And that, of course, is because we haven't made this script intelligent enough to calculate the correct split scheme based on the input from the user. And that is what we're going to do in the hopefully last step. I think I said that before. Hopefully last step of this mini series is we're going to fill out a little bit more script here to look at this variable. So look at what the user selects and then do the right thing to calculate the split scheme that we want. And once we do that, we have the whole thing figured out. So I have my process plan, and in there I have a script that is not complete. And instead of just saying it is a fixed split scheme that is not correct, I want to now have the logic that comes up with what is the correct split scheme. And we're going to do that in a number of steps. And the first thing is, it's always annoying to make the split scheme because you have these commas in between, and there is only a comma in between 2 pages, and you can't have one at the end, and so on and so on. So the easiest way to do that is to say, I'm going to build a split scheme array, and that is going to be an empty array, and then instead of having a fixed thing at the end, I'm going to use this little convenience call. So whatever elements I have in my array are joined together with a comma, and then I get a string, and that string goes to here. So I need to figure out what kind of string I want. What elements do I want in this array that will end up in the string? And in order to do so, I need a couple of pieces of information. And the first is the number of pages in the document. So num pages. What is the number of pages in the document? pdfToolbox knows, so I can do app. And as you can see, there is syntax completion, so it's not that difficult. app.doc. And I can already see that there is something called num pages. And that is what I want. So in my input document, in my test document, this would be 4. Second thing I need to know is, what is the page that has the back of the business card? And so I can say const index back page, and that is dependent on what the user selects. If the user selects first, then it's the first page. If the user selects last, then it's the last page. And the indexes for those 2 choices are 1 and -1. And I'm going to write a very concise statement. You could also do this with if then else. if you're more comfortable with that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say app.vars.var. I'm not going to type this whole thing, copy paste. If this equals first, then the index is 1, and in the other case, the index is -1. So this is just like an if then else, but it's a much more complex way of writing it. And actually, I need a second piece of information that is derived from the choice of the user, and that is, what is the first page that is a front page? Because if my back of the business card is the first page in the document, then my first front page would be 2. So I can call this index front pages. And as I said, if my back page is the first page in the document, then my front pages start at page 2. In the other case, they start at the first page of the document. So that gives us everything that we need. And now I need a little loop. How many times do I need to loop? Well, my test document has 4 pages, but only 3 of those are front pages because one of them is the back page. Okay, so keeping that in mind, if I start at 0, I need to loop until num pages -1 to correct for the fact that I also have a back page. And then what do I want to add to my array in the split scheme thing? Well, I want always to have a front page first. So that would be index front pages plus index. And then I want to have the back page. So this again, and then the index back page. If you have to draw this on a piece of paper, don't worry. That is very often what I also have to do, except that in my case, usually it's a whiteboard. But we can actually say, show me the evaluation results, and the evaluation results by default show me what the result of this script is. And so given the choice first, so the first page of the document is the back of the business card, my split scheme would be 213141, and I think that is correct. And if my choice would be, if the user would have answered last, then my split scheme would be 1 -1, 2 -1, 3 -1. And I think that that is also correct. So we can say, okay, and close this out. And we now should have a process plan that is fully correct, and we can test that. So go to test mode. In my document, the back page is the last page. Run that, and I get front, back, front, back, front, back. So that's correct. And if I now switch to the other test document, now it is the first page, and you can see it. The first page in my document is the back of the business card. And when I run that, I get the exact same output result, front, back, front, back, front, back. So that gives me a process plan that I could now, if I want to either just use in pdfToolbox desktop, or I could say export, and then I can use it on the command line or using the SDK or using Switch or however you want to automate this solution.